thank you all for such a warm welcome. As someone who's spent my career living in Vietnam and the Philippines and in Thailand before moving here to Singapore 5 years ago, there are so many heads of philanthropies corporations whose experiences here I admire so much. So thank you for being here and listening to our call to action for circular and resilient cities. I'm Lauren Sorkin. I'm the Executive Director of the Resilient Cities Network. And I'm so pleased to be here with all of you today, really refocused after 2 weeks of conversations, deliberations in Glasgow at COP26. There are very strong synergies between the Glasgow Climate Pact and what I'm about to talk to you about in terms of our call to action for accelerating resilient cities. Unfortunately, what happened in Glasgow was not enough, and we know that we need to mobilize much more cross-sector collaboration in order to invest in the solutions that are going to keep our children and our children's children safe from the worst impacts of climate change. I will now take a few minutes to explain why cities are really a unique opportunity to lead the transition to a circular and resilient economy. To build resilience in cities, we actually have to understand what makes cities vulnerable. And for many, that's the current cradle-to-grave or take-make-waste economy. And these wastes are actually choking our cities. They're causing more floods. They're causing health threats. And so there is an opportunity for us to improve health, improve well-being, and put cities at the center of a cradle-to-cradle economy. Now, what's actually at stake here? We know that now 1/3 of all the food that is produced is wasted. And when food goes to our landfills, it produces methane, a greenhouse gas that is 28 times more powerful than carbon dioxide. 8% of our GHG emissions globally come from food waste. Yet, the global methane pledge that was discussed in COP26 does nothing about food waste. Next, we come to the building sector. 2.2 billion tons of waste are generated by the building sector annually. 38% of global emissions are generated by our building sector, making it the single largest contributor to greenhouse gas emissions. And with rapidly urbanizing places, mostly here in Asia and in Africa, we know that there will be 2x the global floor by 2060. That is the equivalent to adding 1 New York City every single month from now for the next 40 years. And last, we come to plastics, which everyone in this region will be familiar with as a major, major waste issue. 90% of the plastic leakage coming into our oceans is coming from our Asian and our African countries, and 3 times the amount of plastic is estimated to be going into our oceans by 2040. These are our hotspots. As cities urbanize, waste is a massive byproduct. The World Bank has calculated that from 2 billion tons in 2016, we will go to 3.4 billion tons of waste by 2050. And this is not happening everywhere equally. It is happening the most in our fast urbanizing places in Asia and Africa. So what are we going to do about it? That's the question. We are an action organization. The Resilient Cities Network is very proud to be the only global network of cities that is headquartered in Southeast Asia, here in Singapore. We sustain our network of 100 cities led by their city leaders, mayors and governors of those cities with knowledge, and we use our network as a platform to change the world. Our city network is present, as I mentioned, in over 100 cities, in 40 countries and on 6 continents. We have a proven track record of helping cities to accelerate resilient solutions and action by bringing together partners and investment. We have 84 active chief resilience officers driving investment into their cities around the world. Now, waste management is a key issue for our cities. Over 50% of our cities indicated that waste management is a priority for them to build urban resilience, and 20% of them identify inadequate sanitation systems as a major barrier in terms of building resilience. It's a major stress to them as they manage day to day. Now, we have been working with partners around the world to prepare investment projects that alleviate these resilience challenges. We have experience in 2 regions and 5 cities preparing investable projects. So we need a resilience mindset to take advantage of the massive opportunity for investment in circular systems. If we do this right, we can unlock 25 million jobs, 2.9 trillion in savings, and we can cut global greenhouse gas emissions by 39%. Now, our program is going to focus on the 3 circularity areas that are the most important for cities: our circular food systems, built environment, and plastics. How will we do it? We will help cities to analyze their vulnerabilities and opportunities, and detailed project preparation is key here. We are not only going to help cities prepare those investable projects, which seem so elusive, we also help to build their capacity, build that muscle, so that they can continue to develop projects over time. Then we will match those projects with financing and finally implement those projects. Over the next year, we will work with at least 9 cities in our member countries, and we will develop at least 20 projects for investment. We will leverage best practice from mentor cities, including Singapore, Toyama, Milan, cities with experience developing innovative technologies for these circular systems. We are glad to count many partners as knowledge partners with us who are going to join us on this journey, but we need more. We need more partners to invest in this massive opportunity. But you don't have to take my word for it alone. I am actually very glad to be turning over the microphone now to my colleague and friend, Hugh, the Executive Director of the Center for Liveable Cities, who is a knowledge partner of ours and also represents Singapore in our network. Hugh?
Thank you. Thank you very much, Lauren. Good morning, honored guests. First, I'd like to thank Temasek Foundation for inviting the Center for Liveable Cities to the Philanthropy Asia Summit alongside our colleagues from the Resilient Cities Network. Singapore, through the Center for Liveable Cities, has been a formal member of the Resilient Cities Network since 2016. Together, we collaborated on developing Singapore's resilience strategy, which was launched at the World City Summit 2018. The strategy identified that while Singapore has done well in our infrastructural resilience, more could be done to enhance our collaboration with communities and private entities to build up resilience against future climate shocks and stressors. Today, I'll briefly share on the Singapore Green Plan 2030, conceived as a whole-of-nation effort to advance the national agenda on sustainable development and to ensure the livability and resilience of our city. Specifically, I will touch on our focus areas with respect to circularity, the steps we have taken, and our progress so far. Now, as many have forecasted, urbanization will continue growing globally in the coming decades. This will take place against the backdrop of increasing disruptions brought about by climate change and increased resource pressures, which will affect cities worldwide. To a large extent, as an island city-state, Singapore has had to deal with such resource pressures from our independence. Within our limited land area, Singapore had to accommodate not just the typical needs of a city, housing, healthcare, education, employment, but also those of an independent nation. These included airports, seaports, military facilities and training grounds, and reservoirs. As Singapore continues to urbanize, the demands on available space can only grow, compelling us to be even more judicious in our use of resources. These are already reflected in our water and waste management strategies. For example, Singapore closes our water loop by recycling our used water to make new water. In addition to advancements in water technology, having a clean urban environment has also been critical. Good pollution control and effective waste management ensures that every drop of rainwater collected in Singapore is clean enough for treatment. We will continue to draw on this experience in water management to make a similar strong push towards other forms of circularity under the Green Plan. So under the Singapore Green Plan 2030, Singapore has committed to capping our CO2 equivalent emissions at 65 million tonnes by 2030 and to halve this by 2050. And we aim to achieve net zero emissions as soon as possible by the second half of this century. But as recently announced by Minister Grace Fu, after the close of COP26, these targets will be further reviewed. To reach our targets, Singapore must further instill the principles of a circular economy where resources are efficiently used, reused, recycled, and upcycled, thereby minimizing waste and optimizing our use of land and resources. Under the sustainable living pillar of the Green Plan, there are already some examples of where Singapore is making headway into circularity. For example, the upcoming Tuas Nexus plant will be the world's first integrated waste and water treatment facility scheduled for completion in 2025. Integrating these facilities allows resource and energy synergies between the both facilities. It will be one of 6 waste-to-energy plants that reduce waste to ash through incineration, saving space at Singapore's only landfill, whilst yielding carbon savings of more than 200,000 tonnes of CO2 annually. Circularity can be increased further by recovering the incineration bottom ash to be used as a new construction material, which we call new sand. We envisage that new sand will be used as a sand replacement in construction, and this is in line with other efforts in the built environment sector to reduce waste and to improve efficiency through prefabrication. We currently also maximize the resource recovery of demolition materials for recycling at the end of the building's life cycle. For example, recycled concrete aggregate are reclaimed from building demolition waste and can be used in concrete for non-structural applications or in the sub-base layer of roads. In 2019, 99% of the 1.4 million tonnes of demolition waste was successfully recycled in this manner. Measures to reduce food waste are also being considered. In 2020 alone, Singapore generated 665 million kilograms of food waste. Closing the food resource loop through food resource valorization measures that convert food waste into other valuable products can help to bring our city closer to circularity. And this is projected to help increase Singapore's food waste recycling rate up from its current level of only 19%. In line with the whole of nation effort under the Green Plan, the National Environment Agency, or NEA, will work with communities in 2 identified public housing estates to pilot this process. And we are happy to share that CLC is collaborating with the Sentosa Development Corporation to explore ways of minimizing food waste on Sentosa Island to contribute to their long-term sustainability plan for carbon neutrality. More broadly, the Resource Sustainability Act, introduced in 2019, is an integral part of Singapore's green strategy. The Act has allowed regulation of 3 priority waste streams of e-waste, food waste, and packaging waste, including plastics. The Singapore Green Plan charts ambitious but realistic targets for the next 10 years so as to deliver on Singapore's commitments under the UN's 2030 Sustainable Development Agenda and the Paris Agreement. This is a living plan which will continue to evolve as new technologies become available and as Singaporeans translate these ideas into action. As part of our mission to create, distill, and share knowledge on livable and sustainable cities, CLC shares lessons and insights from Singapore's experience, including in partnership with our cities. At our next World City Summit in 2022, we will continue this important conversation on achieving urban sustainability and resilience. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Hugh. I am now going to call on another colleague and friend, Ellen Martin, who is the Director of Impact and Innovation and one of the catalytic funding and knowledge partners for the Urban Ocean Initiative, which was an initiator for this initiative.
Yes, thanks so much. So the Circulate initiative is committed to solving the ocean plastic pollution challenge through supporting incubation of new infrastructure and companies that are circular, inclusive, and investable opportunities. And from those incubation activities, generating insights that can encourage more investment and scale of those solutions so we can advance the circular economy and address the ocean plastic challenge at the same time. We are doing this work in partnership with our cities around urban oceans because we recognize that solving the ocean plastic challenge really starts with cities. Because cities is where people live, where they work, where they make things, where they consume, and where the waste is generated. And with this in mind, the Circulate initiative, along with our cities and Ocean Conservancy, created the Urban Ocean Initiative in late 2019. We have, in our first cohort of cities since 2020, been working on addressing these problems with a cohort of both learning cities and mentor cities that are working with each other and learning from each other. One of the 6 learning cities is Malacca, and I'm delighted that you'll be hearing from Ms. Zubel in just a minute about her story in participating in the Urban Ocean program. Maybe just very briefly, how Urban Ocean works is really about that idea of collaboration and action, that the cities have been going through a process facilitated by our cities and the other program partners, first to prepare in a preparation forum, which began in 2020, with the cities understanding the concepts underlying what we were trying to do. The concepts of resiliency, circularity, how ocean plastics happens, how it can be addressed, and really starting to build an understanding of how these things come together. The second stage of this work involved a gap assessment. So for each city, the problem of ocean plastics really comes from a different place, a different unique aspect of what the cities are experiencing. So we had to do a rapid assessment. Cities partnered with local researchers to capture an understanding of the waste flows. Where is it coming from? Where is it going to? What could infrastructure better, how could infrastructure better address the plastic challenge? The next step is project design. So at this stage, the cities have gone through their gap assessments, and our cities is now facilitating a process by which they will understand the opportunities that they can undertake to address these challenges, and developing the projects in a way that helps to create the systems change needed. In early 2022, we expect that these projects will be ready for an accelerator summit, where we'll bring in private sector and capital provider partners to come in and engage on these solutions with cities. Because we understand that in order to create the systems change we're trying to achieve, we have to get all the sectors involved. They have to be part of addressing the individual challenges and the solutions if they're going to really fully be integrated and adopted at the city level. We're so excited to be working with our cities and our other partners and the cities themselves in this process. It has been a tremendous learning experience for all of us, and it's given us a really solid foundation on which to build upon. And I have no doubt that through our work and our relationship with our cities and others, that we'll be able to do so much more. That really the circular economy is a key piece of how we address the challenges that we face today, in particular around ocean plastics, but other environmental and social issues. And we're excited for what's to come. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ellen, and I'm glad you brought up the investment opportunity. I will get back to that, but before I do, people always ask who will benefit from these projects. And so to introduce the work that's been happening in Melaka, the urgent challenges as well as her hopes for the future of her city and circularity is Ms. Zubel, the Director of Planning from the City of Malacca.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and very good morning. On behalf of Malacca City Council, I would like to express my gratitude to the Resilient City Network for inviting me to join them at the Philanthropy Asia Summit 2021. I am TPR Zuhaila Ahmad Zubel, the Director of Town Planning Departments and Chief Resilient Officer of Malacca City, Malaysia. Malacca is a popular tourism destination. However, there is limited awareness about recycling and lack of waste system and infrastructure in the city. Malacca City generates about 900 tons of waste per day, a majority of which is dumped in the city's only landfill in Sungai Udang, which is expected to reach capacity by the year 2024. Hence, we are looking into opportunities and embed circularity principles into our waste management system. Malacca is currently collaborating with our cities on several ongoing programs, including the Urban Ocean Program and Temasek Foundation Urban Resilience Program. Malacca's involvement in Urban Ocean Program has been a constructive step forward as it provides a platform for the city to work together with other partners to create a thriving and inclusive circular economy. The city's next circularity milestone is to reduce at least 40% of waste being sent to the Sungai Udang landfill in order to reduce the pressure on our waste management. The Accelerating Circular and Resilient City program will provide a great opportunity for cities in the region to implement circular economy initiative at scale. Cities like Melaka could possibly leverage the program to advance its ongoing work in managing plastic waste and look further into managing food waste, building waste, and construction waste. Cities are energized and ready to move from strategy to action to implement projects through the support and knowledge of partners and champion cities. We have a lot to learn from the selected champion cities who are leaders in circularity, allowing us to benefit from knowledge sharing. Our involvement in resilient and circularity works with our city can inspire other emerging cities in the region to join us in the transition from the linear to the circular economy. The cities in the networks and our cities team have been exceptionally supportive throughout our partnership. I have high expectations for the Accelerating Circular and Resilient City program to fill out the project preparation and implementation gap and scale up circularity projects. So we hope the participants of the Philanthropy Asia Summit share our excitement to join the Resilient City Network in this call to action to accelerate circular and resilient cities. On that note, thank you.
Wonderful. We have to give her a round of applause, though she's not here, because she's one of the most amazing Chief Resilience Officers supporting this work. And I think, as you've heard from all of us today, it's about building systems that enable change. And in that vein, I'm also very excited to announce that in addition to the work that we're doing to strengthen cities and prepare projects, we're also announcing today an opportunity to join us in this call to action in blended finance. So what I'd like to talk about just for a moment is that there is an incredible investment opportunity in circularity, and we know that investors are already responding to this. We've seen a 10x growth in private market funds for circularity and over 26 times the growth in public equity funds. There are now 8 billion assets under management for circular economy around the world. But according to the OECD, this money is largely not going towards sectors that cities invest in. In fact, the vast majority of investment of capital into circularity is investing in businesses who are updating their own model. And these are largely large corporations who are updating their business model. So circularity still faces a very serious financing gap, and 73% of the cities around our network have stated that it's insufficient financial resources that are keeping them from transitioning to a circular economy. So we're very excited today to be launching a Resilience Community Investment Fund that will offer pay-for-success capital to our cities. This will combine outcome funders' work from the RCI Fund and city governments who will commit funding based on their expected work in circularity. We will then pair this with local investors and project partners, and then we will deliver. And we will be able to offer more risk-free capital to cities to really incentivize the kind of change that we know is needed. So I hope that today we've been able to elucidate the opportunity that there is to invest in circularities and for cities to lead that change. We must move onwards together in resilience. Thank you for listening, and we'll answer a couple of questions now. Okay, so I'm not seeing the questions for ours. I'm still seeing the questions for Alex's. Okay. How do we increase stakeholder acceptance for the circular economy in cities with a linear economy that has entrenched interests? So this is a great question. Ellen, I'm going to turn to you on this one. I see you nodding and smiling, and then I'll take it next.
Yeah, it's a critical issue that has to be addressed. I think in the previous session we heard about that mindset shift that's so important. There are pressures that each of us as different organizations and different sectors face from stakeholders that push us to move differently. In the private sector, it's shareholder activism or investor interest. It's policy and regulations, and it's behavior change at the residential level, at the community level, as well as in the organizational decision-making level. All of these things have to incentivize. In the plastic space, we've seen a tremendous amount of pressure coming from consumers, which drives the behavior of consumer packaged goods companies and brands to make changes away from plastic, to recycle better, to use more recycled content. All of this is then driving the action of the plastics value chain, of plastics manufacturers, petrochemical companies, and the investment that underlies that entire system is starting to shift. And we're seeing that momentum happen that will actually create more of a circular economy and moving us away from the linear economy.
Thanks, Ellen. I think I would only add that it's very much about how we articulate benefits, what it is that we want to drive in terms of outcomes. And when we talk about project design, when we talk about working with our cities, we approach each and every city with a resilience framework. And we work very closely with Center of Livable Cities. You have the livability framework here in Singapore, and it's very similar in that it looks at human health and well-being, it looks at economy and society, creating jobs, it looks at infrastructure and environment, and it actually looks at leadership and governance. And so when we talk about trying to incentivize different stakeholders, we need to make it really clear what it is we're going for. If we're trying to create better jobs, if we're trying to create healthier communities, if we're trying to reduce greenhouse gas emissions and have economic benefit, even if you put economic benefit first, you can still make a very convincing business case. And I think that that's what we need to do. We need to actually speak to people in their own language. And I think that's what we intend to do with this project. We prepare projects in a way where they have a strong business case and they're investable. They deliver multiple benefits, and that's where we can bring in the pay for success funding. So I think we have this work to do. We know that cities want to do this work. They want to create safer, cleaner, more equitable communities. And so now it's really up to us to mobilize both the knowledge and the finance and the innovation to help cities to make this happen. I think we don't have time for any more questions, so I hope that you'll join me in thanking my co-panelists here today, and thanks to all of you again for listening to Temasek for bringing us together here today.
Thank you, Temasek.